F-15E helicopter. While responding to a request for help by U.S. Special Forces, 5 Iraqi helicopters were spotted. The lead F-15E of 2, via its flow, acquired a helicopter in the process of unloading Iraqi soldiers, and released a GBU-10 bomb. The F-15E crew thought the bomb had missed its target and were preparing to use a sidewinder when the helicopter was destroyed. The Special Forces team estimated that the Hind was roughly 800 feet, 240 m, over the ground when the 2,000-pound, 910 kilograms, bomb hit its target. As another coalition bombing operation had commenced, the F-15Es disengaged from combat with the remaining helicopters. F-15Es struck heavily defended targets throughout Iraq, prioritizing Scud missile sites. Missions aimed at killing Iraqi President Saddam Hussein were undertaken by F-15Es, bombing several suspected locations. Prior to the ground war, F-15Es flew tank plinking missions against Iraqi vehicles in Kuwait. After 42 days of combat, a ceasefire came into effect on the 1st of March, 1991, leading to the creation of northern and southern no-fly zones over Iraq. Operation Southern Watch and Northern Watch, edit. Following Desert Storm, 2 no-fly zones over Iraq were set up, and enforced typically by US and UK aircraft. In one incident, an attack on up to 600 Kurdish refugees by Iraqi helicopters at Chechemal, northern Iraq, was observed by a flight of F-15Es. As they were not allowed to open fire, the F-15Es instead conducted several high-speed passes as close as possible to the Iraqi helicopters to create severe wake turbulence, while aiming lasers at the helicopters' cockpits to attempt to blind their crews. This caused the crash of one Hind. Afterwards, USAF leadership ordered F-15Es not to fly below 10,000 feet, 3,000 m, to deter a repetition. F-15Es of the 391st Fighter Squadron, 492d Fighter Squadron, and 494th Fighter Squadron regularly deployed to Turkey throughout the 1990s. In January 1993, in breach of the ceasefire agreement, Iraqi targets below the 32nd parallel north were attacked. 10 F-15Es conducted a punitive strike days later. Most missions were of a defensive nature. The Strike Eagles carried a flexible range of weapons on a typical mission. AWACS aircraft were in close contact with F-15E crews, who would receive new taskings while airborne and thus could fly unplanned attacks on Iraqi targets. After 1993, no-fly zone violations were minimal as Iraq staged a minor withdrawal. In 1997, Turkey approved the creation of Operation Northern Watch, ONW, and permitted U.S. forces to use the Incirlik Air Base. In December 1998, Operation Desert Fox was conducted when Iraq refused UNSCOM inspections. On the 28th of December 1998, 3 F-15Es struck an SA-3 tracking radar and optical guidance unit, each dropping 2 GBU-12 500-pound precision-guided munitions, PGMs. After Desert Fox, Iraq frequently violated the no-fly zones. Thus F-15Es conducted several pre-planned retaliatory strikes. In ONW alone, weapons were expended on at least 105 days. Between the 24th and the 26th of January 1999, F-15Es expended several AGM-130S and GBU-12S against SAM sites near Mosul, northern Iraq. They also flew in support of Operation Provide Comfort and Operation Provide Comfort 2. Operations in the Balkans, edit. Operation Deny Flight was a United Nations enforced no-fly zone over Bosnia and Herzegovina due to the deteriorating situation in the Balkans. In August 1993, F-15Es from 492nd and 494th FS deployed to Aviano, Italy. In late 1993, NATO ordered a limited F-15E strike at Udbina airfield, targeting Serbian forces in neighboring Croatia. 8 F-15Es armed with GBU-12s took off to attack an SA-6 anti-aircraft vehicle. The mission was cancelled mid-flight over the application of stringent rules of engagement. In December 1993, F-15Es launched to destroy a pair of SA-2s which had fired upon two Royal Navy Sea Harrier FRS-1s. In August 1995, F-15Es of 90th Fighter Squadron were also deployed. The 492D and 494th flew over 2,500 sorties since starting deny flight, 2,000 of these by 492D. In August 1995, in support of NATO's Operation Deliberate Force, F-15Es flew strike missions against Serbian armor and logistics around the Bosnian capital, Sarajevo. On the 9th of September, an F-15E deployed the type's first GBU-15 bomb, dropping 9 on Bosnian Serb ground forces and air defense targets near Banja Luka. In response to the displacement of Kosovars and the Serbian government's rejection of a NATO ultimatum, Operation Allied Force was launched in March 1999. A total of 26 F-15Es flew the first strikes of Allied force against Serb surface-to-air missile sites, anti-aircraft batteries and early warning radar stations. Strike Eagles were deployed to Aviano as well as RAF Lakenheath in the UK. In theatre, F-15Es conducted close air support, CAS, missions, a popular concept within the USAF. Missions typically lasted around 7.5 hours, included 2 aerial refuelings. F-15Es would carry a mix of air-to-air and air-to-ground munitions to perform both combat air patrol duties as well as strike missions in the same mission. Mobile SAM launchers posed a considerable threat to NATO aircraft and had made successful shoot-downs, most notably of a Lockheed F-117 Nighthawk. In order to strike from increased distances, the F-15E was equipped with the AGM-130, which provided a standoff strike capability. Operation Enduring Freedom, edit. Weeks after the 11th of September attacks in 2001, the 391st Fighter Squadron deployed to Ahmed Al-Jabr Air Base, Kuwait, to support Operation Enduring Freedom during the war in Afghanistan. F-15Es met little resistance during initial missions. On the first night, the main targets were Taliban military structures, supply depots, and Al-Qaeda training camps and caves. Both the AGM-130 and GBU-15 2,000-pound, 910 kilograms, bombs were expended. This was the GBU-15's first combat usage. GBU-24s and GBU-28s were used against reinforced targets, command and control centers and cave entrances. F-15s often operated in pairs alongside pairs of F-16Cs. Within weeks of the start of combat operations, there was a lack of targets to strike as nearly all targets had been already destroyed. The Taliban had access to SA-7 and FIM-92 Stinger portable surface-to-air missiles, posing no threat to most aircraft flying above 7,000 feet, 2,100 m. Additionally, fixed SAM sites near cities as Mazar-i-Sharif and Bagram were struck early on. Afghanistan had rapidly become a low-threat environment for air operations. Aircraft commonly flew on-call support missions for Allied ground forces. F-15s usually carried Mk-82 and GBU-12 bombs in this role. Other weapons were sometimes carried. During one mission a GBU-28, 2 GBU-24s and 6 GBU-12s were released. Frequent targets during the rest of the war were individual insurgents, light vehicles and supply convoys. Cannon fire was often expended as well as bombs from F-15Es. It was during combat over Afghanistan that 391st Cruise conducted the longest fighter mission in history, lasting a total of 15.5 hours, 9 of those hours spent flying over the target area. 2 F-15Es attacked 2 Taliban command and control facilities, 2 buildings suspected of being used by Taliban fighters, and a roadblock. The F-15Es refueled 12 times during the mission. An F-15E of the 391st Expeditionary Fighter Squadron launching heat decoys over Afghanistan, 2008. On the 4th of March, another incident known as the Battle of Roberts Ridge involved several F-15Es performing a CAS mission. Aircraft destroyed a Taliban observation post and responded to nearby enemy mortar fire upon Navy SEAL forces searching for an ambushed MH-47E Chinook in the Shah-i-Kot Valley. Several bombs were dropped as the SEAL team took fire, however one bomb missed due to the aircrew using incorrect coordinates. An MH-47 carrying a rescue team was downed by an RPG while attempting to support the SEALs. Following refueling, the F-15Es dropped a further 11 GBU-12s in coordination with ground forces, and fired their cannons on Taliban forces in close proximity to the survivors of the downed MH-47. F-16Es of 18th Fighter Squadron also made strafing passes until cannon ammunition was depleted, then resorting to further bomb drops. The F-15Es suffered technical issues involving both radio and weapon failures. Several GBU-12s were dropped before returning to Al Jaber in Kuwait. Years later, several incidents occurred. On the 23rd of August, 2007, a friendly fire incident involved an F-15E mistakenly dropping a 500-pound, 230 kilograms, bomb on British forces, killing 3 soldiers. The stated cause was confusion between the air controller and the F-15E on the bombing coordinates. On the 13th of September, 2009, an F-15E shot down a non-responsive MQ-9 Reaper drone over northern Afghanistan to prevent it entering foreign airspace. Operation Iraqi Freedom, edit. In late 2002, during tension over suspected Iraqi possession of weapons of mass destruction, the 4th Fighter Wing at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base was ordered to maintain at least 1 squadron ready to deploy to the Persian Gulf. During January 2003, the 336th was deployed to Al Udeid Air Base, Qatar, in coordination with planners of the Combined Air Operations Center at Prince Sultan Air Base, Saudi Arabia. In late January, F-15Es began flying in Operation Southern Watch, typically performing surveillance and reconnaissance missions. Additional roles included simulated combat against potential Iraqi targets and regional familiarization with local procedures and rules of engagement. During OSW, F-15Es struck targets in southern and western Iraq, including radars, radio stations, command and control sites, and air defenses. On one night, 4 F-15Es released multiple GBU-24s on the Iraqi Republican Guard /Ba'ath Party HQ in Basra, while another flight of 4 destroyed a nearby air defense sector HQ with 6 GBU-10s. In late February, the 336th received additional aircrews, many drafted from the 2 non-deployable squadrons at Seymour Johnson, the 333d and 334th Fighter Squadrons, and 391st Fighter Squadron at Mountain Home Air Force Base, for a total of 4 aircrews per F-15E. In March, the 335th Fighter Squadron's personnel and aircraft joined the 336th at Al Udeid. One objective was the destruction of Iraq's air defenses and early warning radar network near the Jordanian border, allowing F-16Es and helicopters to operate from Jordan from the war's outset. Several radar sites and radio relay stations were hit in western Iraq near the H-3 airfield, encountering heavy anti-aircraft fire. On the 19th of March, as F-117 Nighthawks dropped bombs over Baghdad, targeting a house where Saddam Hussein was believed to be, F-15Es dropped GBU-28s around the H-3 airfield. On the 20th of March, the effective start of the war, F-15Es fired AGM-130s against communication, command and control buildings, and other key targets in Baghdad. Some weapons missed their intended targets, possibly due to jamming by EA-6B prowlers in the vicinity. On the 3rd of April, 2003, an F-15E mistook a US AM-270 multiple launch rocket system, MLRS, for an Iraqi surface-to-air missile site and dropped a 500-pound, 230 kilograms, laser-guided bomb, killing 3 and wounding 5 others. On the 7th of April, 2003, an F-15E, crewed by Captain Eric Das and Major William Watkins, performed a key interdiction mission in support of Special Forces, but crashed near Tikrit, Iraq. Das and Watkins were posthumously awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross and the Purple Heart. During the war, F-15Es were credited with destroying 60% of the Iraqi Medina Republican Guard's total force. They also struck 65 MiGs on the ground, and destroyed key air defense and command buildings in Baghdad. F-15Es worked with other jets deployed to El Udeid, including RAF F-18S, USAF F-16S and F-117S, RAF Panavia Tornadoes and U.S. Navy F-14S. Operation Odyssey Dawn, edit. Following the adoption of United Nations Security Council Resolution 1973 on the 17th of March, 2011, 18 USAF F-15S were amongst other NATO and Allied aircraft were deployed to enforce the Libyan no-fly zone as part of Operation Odyssey Dawn. On the 21st of March, 2011, an F-15E from the 492D Fighter Squadron crashed near Benghazi, Libya. Both crew members parachuted into territory held by resistance elements of the Libyan population and were eventually rescued by U.S. Marines. Equipment problems caused a weight imbalance and contributed to the crash when leaving the target area. Operations against Islamic State, 2014 present, edit. USAF F-15S have participated in Operation Inherent Resolve against Islamic State, IS, militants in Iraq and Syria. On the morning of the 23rd of September, 2014, numerous American and Arab aircraft conducted airstrikes in Syria against IS fighters, training compounds, headquarters and command and control facilities, storage facilities, a finance center, supply trucks, and armed vehicles. The Pentagon released videos of targets hit by ordnance deployed by F-15S, taken by their N-AAQ-33 sniper targeting pods. Between August 2014 and January 2015, F-15S flew 37% of all USAF sorties. A 492 F-15E of the 48th Fighter Wing taking off from RAF Lakenheath. USAF F-15S based at RAF Lakenheath in the United Kingdom performed several long-range strikes against IS camps and prominent figures in Libya. On the 13th of November, 2015, a pair of F-15S killed Abu Nabil al-Anbari, the leader of the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant in Libya, in a strike near Darna, eastern Libya. On the 20th of February, 2016, USAF F-15S hit an IS training camp near Sabratha where foreign fighters were based, reportedly killing Nudin Chowchan, a 36-year-old Tunisian jihadist linked to the 2015 Sousse attacks. Sources said that 49 people were killed and 6 wounded. 2 Serbians kidnapped by IS in 2015 were also reportedly killed. On the 8th of June, 2017, an F-15E shot down a pro-Syrian regime UAV near El Tanf, Syria. According to OIR officials, it was downed after deploying one of several weapons it was carrying near a position occupied by coalition personnel. It was similar in size to a US MQ-1 Predator. The drone may have been a Shard 129. On the 20th of June, 2017, a second Shard 129 was downed by an F-15E near the 50-mile exclusion zone around Al Tanf. On the 21st of August, 2021, a USAF F-15E shot down an unidentified drone with an AIM-9X Sidewinder missile as the drone approached US forces in eastern Syria. USAF F-15Es were deployed on the 2nd of February, 2024, during the airstrikes against Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria. USAF F-15Es helped blunt an Iranian attack against Israel on the 13th of April, 2024 by shooting down over 70 Iranian one-way attack UAVs. Concurrent with the fall of the Assad regime on the 8th of December, USAF F-15Es were deployed alongside B-52s and A-10s in what the USAF said were dozens of airstrikes against over 75 ISIS targets. The strikes were intended to prevent ISIS from benefiting from the political upheaval in Syria. Israel, edit. The F-15I is operated by the Israeli Defense Force /Air Force No. 69 Squadron, succeeding the F-4 Phantom II. It is used akin to a strategic bomber due to its long range, high munition capacity and advanced systems. After the Gulf War in 1991, in which Israeli towns were attacked by Scud missiles based in Iraq, the Israeli government decided a long-range strike aircraft was needed, issuing a Request for Information, RFI. In response, Lockheed Martin offered a version of the F-16 Fighting Falcon, while McDonnell Douglas offered both the F-4/A-18 Hornet and the F-15E. On the 27th of January, 1994, the Israeli government announced their intention to buy 21 modified F-15s, designated F-15I. On the 12th of May, 1994, the U.S. government authorized the purchase of up to 25 F-15s by Israel. In November, 1995, Israel ordered 4 extra F-15s. 25 were built from 1996 to 1998. Some of the air-to-air missiles aircraft can carry, the AIM-9L, Rafael Python 4 and the Rafael Python 5 infrared homing missiles, and the AIM-7 Sparrow and the AIM-120 AMRAAM radar-guided missiles. In 1999, Israel announced its intention to procure more fighters and that a possible contender was the F-15I. However, the contract went to the F-16I. Saudi Arabia, edit. In November 2009, Royal Saudi Air Force, ASIF, F-15s, along with Saudi Tornadoes, performed air raids amid the Houthi insurgency in North Yemen. It was the ASIF's first military action over hostile territory since Operation Desert Storm. In October 2010, Saudi Arabia requested 84 F-15 Saudi Advanced Fighters, upgrading of its existing F-15S fleet to F-15 SAS standard, and related equipment and weapons through a foreign military sale, FMS. On the 29th of December, 2011, the U.S. signed a $29.4 billion contract to sell 84 F-15 SAS, as well as the F-15S upgrades. In June 2012, an FMS contract for 68 F-15S to F-15SA modification kits was placed with Boeing. The upgraded aircraft are designated the F-15SR. On the 20th of February, 2013, the maiden flight of the first new-build F-15SA occurred. Saudi-led intervention in Yemen, 2015 present, edit. See also, list of aviation shootdowns and accidents during the Saudi Arabian-led intervention in Yemen. On the 26th of March, 2015, Saudi F-15SS, along with other Arab coalition assets, started striking targets in Yemen as part of the Saudi Arabian-led intervention in Yemen, called Operation Decisive Storm. Opposing a joint force composed of former Houthi rebels and Yemeni army forces, the strikes, at least initially, were met by ineffective anti-aircraft fire that reportedly only caused damage when falling to the ground. Early strikes were aimed at air defense sites, army HQs, military airports, ballistic missiles depots, and launchers. During these attacks, a Saudi F-15S crashed into the Gulf of Aden after circling over the sea. Its two pilots ejected safely and were recovered from the sea by a USAF HH-60G rescue helicopter. Arab coalition reports claimed enemy fire was not involved, while Houthi and Iranian sources claimed they had shot it down. On the 8th of January, 2018, a Asif F-15S was reportedly shot down by a Houthi surface-to-air missile. A Houthi-released video shows the F-15 increasing speed and releasing decoy flares before being struck by a projectile and apparently suffering major damage. On the 9th of January, 2018, the Houthi media, Al Masirah, announced that the F-15 had been damaged but did not crash. On the 21st of March, 2018, Houthi rebels released a video allegedly showing a Asif F-15 being hit in Sada province by an R-27 air-to-air missile adapted for surface-to-air use. As in the video of the previous similar hit recorded on the 8th of January, the target, while clearly hit, seems not falling to the ground when the video stops. Saudi forces confirmed the hit, while saying the jet safely landed at a Saudi base. Saudi sources confirmed the incident involved a surface-to-air missile being launched at the jet from inside Sada airport. Variants, edit. For earlier F-15O, F-15B, F-15C, F-15D, F-15J, F-15DJ, and other F-15 based variants, see McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle. F-15E variants, edit. F-15E. Two-seat all-weather long-range strike and ground attack aircraft for the USAF. A total of 236 were built from 1985 to 2001. IAF F-15I, Rome. F-15I. The F-15I is operated by the Israeli Air Force where it is known as the Rome Thunder. It is a dual-seat ground attack aircraft powered by two Pratt & Whitney F-100 PW229 engines, and is based on the F-15E. The F-15I features different avionics systems to USAF F-15E to meet Israeli requirements. Initially, sharpshooter targeting pods designed for IAF F-16S were fitted for nighttime strikes, but were less capable than the lantern pods used on USAF F-15S. Israel later bought 30 lantern pods. The F-15 initially lacked radar warning receivers. Israel installed its own El-Isra SPS 2110 electronic warfare equipment as well as a new central computer and embedded GPS /INS system. All sensors can be slaved to the display and sight helmet-mounted sight, providing both crew members a means of targeting which the F-15E lacks. The F-15E uses the APG-70I radar. Its terrain mapping capability can locate targets difficult to spot while under adverse weather conditions and can detect large airliner-sized targets at 150 nautical miles, 170 mi, 280 kilometers, and fighter-sized targets at 56 mi, 64 mi, 104 kilometers. It has a reduced resolution 1/3 below the APG-70. In January 2016, Israel approved F-15I upgrades such as structural changes, an AESA radar, updated avionics, and new weapons. F-15K. The F-15K Slam Eagle, Korean, F-15K, is a derivative of the F-15E,